The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today. RTT and Some Studios presents Ken and Chris's annual Birthday Bash on Saturday, February 22nd at Faces Brewing Company, Malden, Massachusetts, featuring live music from KCUF with special guests Megan from Work and MK Naomi. Be sure to be at Faces Brewing Company in Malden, Mass, Saturday, February 22nd for Ken and Chris's annual Birthday Bash. Doors at 8 p.m., $10 cover.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Today, our guest is a familiar voice in person to the Struggling Artist Podcast. It is none other than Chris Chavez, our producer. Chris is here to talk about his podcast, 716 The Sound. He's doing amazing stuff out in Buffalo, and I told him I wanted to have him on to talk about it. And you should all give it a listen because you don't need to be local to Buffalo to like this podcast. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. We talk about that in this episode. Make sure you check it out. It's always awesome. I do so much with Chris, and it's never boring. It's always something new. Talking with him here is like nothing like we do when we do Chopping It Up or anything else. So it's cool, man. It's cool to be able to do that kind of thing and help support someone, help my friend with his art by giving him an interview. This is episode 323 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with 716 The Sound.
I was just going to say the drummer for Faith to Fear was on the Cinder show at Mohawk and brought the shirt there for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So do you stagger that? Do you go through bands like the flu goes through a household?
I try not to. It's not the intention, but so with Faith to Fear, it was the drummer I was interacting with first, and then found out that the singer was also interested. And so that's how that went. For the guitarist for Stress Dolls, it's just because that's who I wanted to talk to, right? It was just I definitely not that I don't want to talk to any other band members of the bands that I've talked to so far, but there were certain people that I wanted to reach out to specifically that I've been wanting to talk to for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it starts, right? You got to pick what you want first. And then when other things get offered, it's okay, of course. You know what I mean? That's what happens to me a lot when people are like, hey, and I'm like, oh, of course. You're on the list. I have found that. Yeah. So, because I actually have a list. I have a whole list of Yeah.
either bands or actual, if I know the names of specific members of those bands, I have them all on this list of who I want to reach out to. And you know how this is. It's like you can only reach out to a handful at a time because after a while you're booking yourself out 2 months before, you know what I mean? If you want to do it the smart way, the way you do, where you only do so many per week, where me, I'm like, these are all the days and times I'm available for the next 3-4 weeks, whatever works for you. And so if I end up doing 4 interviews in 1 week, I end up doing 4 interviews in 1 week.
I mean, I've done that too.
Yeah,
you know,
it's brutal, though.
It can work. It can be brutal.
It's brutal in
Especially-
terms of having to be there to do it, not because I had to talk to him, because that's the best part of it.
Right.
know?
Because like at the end of the day, like even with this show, like there is preparation.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like sometimes, especially this is why I kind of shied away from doing. I used to do 2 in a day. But I kind of shied away from that because I felt like I wasn't giving the artist enough attention to their art beforehand because I had to split the time, you know?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever come across anything like that yet. But
I have done 2 in 1 day. Actually, just the past Saturday, I did 2 in 1 day. I had a photographer, videographer that's part of the Shepherd Moon Studios company. I had the founder on the show recently. So I had one of his photographers on, and she was on, and then like 2 hours later, I had the singer for Little Liar. So that'll be coming out too. As well
oh,
here in the near
nice,
future.
nice. Yeah. They hit me up because of you.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Thank goodness I looked because, like, you know, when people hit you up on Instagram, like, if you're not following them, it goes to like a random folder, and like I don't always see that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't get
the little requests. I always just randomly check requests just in case there's one. Because again, if I'm not following them, I want to make sure there is.
Yeah, I guess I could solve that if I had notifications on, though.
You
No,
don't have to. Just go in randomly and check, but like make it a regular thing that you do it. You know what I mean?
trying. Everything I'm trying to do is trying to make everything regular.
But it is nice, dude, when you have somebody reach out to you that says that if you have time or you'd like to, I'd love to come on the show. And you're like, yeah, you were on my list. Like, that's awesome. You just saved me that awkward feeling of being like,
Yes.
man, I don't want to bother this person. I don't want to come across as this, like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're making some noise out there, dude. Or should we say sound? You're making some sound out in the Buffalo area with 716 The Sound. That's cool, man. Like, what? Tell me, like, where did this idea come from?
So it's funny because I was thinking about this, and I've told a few people kind of different versions of this story, and I think this is the version that I have settled on as being the most accurate version. So first of all, I love music. I've always loved music, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing podcasts for a while, but a few years ago, I used to have a podcast called That One Time at Bandcamp, where I went on Bandcamp just to find, whatever I could, because I've always been I love music. I love discovering music that people aren't really into or haven't heard yet, and I love turning people on to music. So Bandcamp to me was like this treasure trove of indie artists and artists that were unsigned, that's where they put their music, right? And it could be just a dude in his living room, making music, but when you listen to it, you're like, this is some of the best music out there, right?
Now, this was prior to you signing on with us, right?
Oh yeah, this is way before.
That's what I thought. Didn't you have a show and that was like a segment, right? Wasn't that like I remember hearing an old episode. I don't know if it was.
So I think it was right when you and I first started talking. I was still doing Bandcamp, and then I almost ended. Like when you and I first became friends, I think it was the tail end of That One Time at Bandcamp. Because yes, I would find that, and then it was always one segment in that episode of that show where I focused on a local act, and so that became the thing, right? So from there, let's move into where you and I started talking and hanging out and just like sharing music. And then you asked me if I was interested in, helping out in any way with the show, or, we had this discussion where I was just like, yeah, dude, I'd love to help out with whatever. And so I kind of got into working with you and helping you with some stuff on the show and, developing ideas and doing social media for a little bit, just all different kinds of things.
And then you brought it back.
But the thing is
you
with
brought back
your
another iteration.
No. With your thing, it was your podcast that inspired me to do this show. Well, almost, because it was your podcast that made me want to do a show where I interviewed artists from this area. Mm-hmm. But then we did the Patreon where we have the Struggling Artist Radio. And with Struggling Artist Radio, when I decided I was going to do my own radio show, I thought I'm going to do literally just a Buffalo, Western New York radio show. So that's where 716 The Sound, the name of the show, was born. This whole idea that it was 716 The Sound. Then when I said, all right, I'm going to do this now. I've been wanting to do this forever. You stop putting it off. I'm going to make it 716 The Sound. Keep the name and make it just strictly Buffalo, Western New York artists. And Western New York goes as far as Rochester. It goes down into the south, like as far south as Jamestown, I think maybe a little further south. So that's why I say it's 716 is the Buffalo area code, but the sound is the idea that it's the whole area, Western New York.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, so it started with an old podcast, and then you definitely were a huge inspiration and instrumental in the birth of this show.
If I'm inspiring you, then we need to go find you some help.
But you see, I listened to your episodes and I would listen to these artists that you would talk to. And there was so many times where in my mind, I was like, oh, but ask this. I would think this, ask this, right? And so it drove this thing in me where it was like, I like to talk to musicians and artists as well. I'd like to delve into the thing. For me, the thing I like the most is the kind of origin story of people. I like to talk about, where they came from, what it was like growing up. Were they influenced by their parents' music? Were they influenced by an older brother? What was that music? What were they into? What did that music carry on into school? Did they play an instrument? When they did, what was their first instrument or whatever their main instrument is now? When did you first start playing it? How'd you get into it? Who were your influences? So I like to delve into what makes the person. Kind of the thing of when you first get to know somebody when you're a kid and your friends, it's like this all the stuff you want to know about them. What's your favorite this? Where were you from?
Yeah.
Where'd you do this? Where'd you grow up? What was it like? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's I love doing that part, but I go off. So the thing is what I like about your show is you definitely have a central base of you talk about the community there, right? Where I'm talking about all sorts of shit. You know what I mean? And it's I like that. I like that aspect of yours. And any of these conversation podcasts with musicians or artists, I love them all. I don't care how close they are to the next one. You know what I'm saying? Because something you just said was you thought of different questions that you would want to ask than from what I'm asking, right? So, you know what I mean? So that's the beauty of doing these things,
That's why I say there's room for everyone, man. It shouldn't be a competition when it came to this stuff, right? I know there's other podcasts in this area that focus on the music scenes or a specific scene because I say the music community as all the different scenes that make up all the musical things in this Western New York area. And so there are podcasts that cover specific scenes. There's podcasts that have talked to other artists. But yeah, it's exactly the same thing. It's what you said. It's we're not all going to ask the same thing. We don't all interact in the same way, right? We don't all have the same focus. Bran Shalia was the first person I had on my show. He runs Steak and Cake Records out here. He has his own podcast called Zuzu Radio. And it's the same thing. He sits with an artist in the area, but for him, it's more about let's delve into your creative process. How do you write? How do you do this? How did you make the textures in this song and layer it? How did it do, So he gets into that kind of thing with them. It just all depends on what it is you're looking for. Me, I've always been interested in just kind of learning about the history of somebody, where they came from, what makes them who they are. So that's what I want to talk about. And and I've been saying this, a lot lately, that one of my biggest goals with this podcast is that, I want it so that somebody who's in the hardcore community who maybe is listening to the show and is checking it out, wants to see what it is, here's an episode from somebody who's in the indie community, right? And then listening to it, they're just like, oh, I've never hung out with this person, never talked to him, but like I can relate so much. I grew up the same way. I had that same feeling. This was my favorite artist. So then when they see each other out at a show, or they're somewhere where they're just like, hey, I heard you on that episode. You know what I mean? It's all about kind of making it more a communal thing as well, where it's like everybody kind of, we all share the same thing, a passion for making music, right? And there's so many stories that align, and so many stories where people kind of have the same experiences. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like it brings, like you said, like it's a communal thing. But like you do specific artists, you won't do a band for this reason, right? For this reason, because like you want that person's full story,
right?
You want and that, you know, I'm sure you've had to like kind of had to explain that to people, right? Like
I've had to a few times.
Like,
yeah,
you'll do the whole band, like the whole band could come on at different times, but like I want to focus on each individual. That way, you get the full story from each person. Because sometimes, you know, I'll tell you, interviewing an entire band sometimes sucks.
No, I'm sure.
You know?
I'm sure it can.
Yeah, because like you can't dive into anything specific, because now you got to worry about like having the other person engage,
giving them enough time as well, the same amount of time.
Yeah, like 2 is healthy. Like if 3 is okay. When I talk to bands that are like 4 or more, I'm like, oh man, at once, like it's like, this is gonna be tough. Like it's tough to do. It's sometimes, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I like, but.
And I totally get it, because like I've reached out to an artist and I was just like, it was a guitarist, and I said, hey, listen, I'd like to have you on the show to talk about your thing. And this is what it is. Like I spelled it all out. It's a one-on-one show. I'd like to have you both on, you know what I mean? But I want to have you on and have you come on the show. And the response was that right now, because they had new stuff and they were pretty much they're a newer band, they were trying to really promote themselves as a band. So they were only doing things where they went on shows or went on things as a band. And I was like, not a problem at all. I'll still support, still promote, I'll still whatever else you need. But the show I'm doing is more of this thing. So whenever you're ready or whenever you're free to, I'd love to have you on.
Yeah,
you know,
that's good. Don't bend the knee. Don't bend the knee.
Yeah, I did start doing this though. So Little Liar was a band. I had the guitarist on the show, and I like their music. I sent you their music before. But they're a band who they were just getting ready to put out a new single, and they're working on a new album that they're going to be putting out, or an EP. And I was like, why don't you come on to promote the single, right? Not just me say, hey guys, go check it out. Like have them come on and talk about it for a little bit. So that was where it was like, that is the environment where it can be more than one band member. So I had the guitarist on and the singer on, and they both were able to kind of just talk about working on the song, what the song was kind of about, you know, what it was like writing it, putting that stuff together. And for me, that was part of because my show does an intro and then the main segment, which is the interview.
Yeah.
The intro is typically me pushing music, pushing shows that are coming up, things like that. This time I was like, let me do it. So the intro was these guys talking about their own music and pushing it. So, you know. That's what I'm going to start doing that more, where I'll feature bands can come on with more than one member to do that stuff.
Yeah. When I heard that, when you put the Little Liar one on, I was like, man, he's giving away an awful lot for their next podcast. I'm like, oh wait, he does individuals. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like,
no, that's literally just kind of like the opening segment. So now, you know, like I said, I do different things for opening segments depending on the episode. Sometimes it's what I call there's a segment called the 411 on the 716, and it's basically like, what's going on? Is there a new video that's out you should check out? Is somebody releasing a new single, or are there good shows coming out that you guys should go check out? And then there's the other one where it's whatever. I think I'm doing one now that's called the New Sound, and that's new releases. And so I'll say, go check this out by this band. They just put it out. You can find it here, 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 and here. And then you can hear like a little snippet of it. I'll play like 20 seconds, 30 seconds of the song, and then push another song. So that's what it's been mostly. And I thought to even switch it up and provide more of a voice to full bands, acts, and a way for them to promote things coming out, I'm going to start pushing in these little segments where you actually hear somebody else talking before the interview.
Yeah. So what? Now we've talked about this, and you've been on this show before. You've been on like the flagship show before, right?
Yeah.
We did one. I think I don't remember if we did it for when you brought the Bandcamp show back, or if we did one when it was just you, like just Chris Chavez.
I
You know
can't
what I mean?
remember.
Yeah,
I really can't.
but so like. A little bit of a background for anyone who doesn't know. Like you've been podcasting pretty much since like it became a thing, right? Like you've been
Well, almost. I started podcasting in 2010, and I think it became a thing maybe like 5 years before that. But
okay.
it
So
didn't
I'm
explode until after
Yeah.
like the late 2010s.
Okay. So I had the right
Yeah.
time frame, just the wrong like milestone, right? So so like you've been doing this for a long time, and you have already multiple shows. Is that like, would that be something? Is that why when you do? So I guess this is a 2-part question. One, like, would you like? Do you think it's good to have this fresh thing every week, or if it's like, or because like you said, it changes, right? It might not be the same kind of segment. Do you think that keeps it fresh for you? Because you do all these different podcasts, right? So like you're adding on you're exercising your creativity with your podcasts that you have. So is that keeping it fresh for you, or is this something like would you benefit if you had like a mini episode, like how we have? We have the flagship show, and then we have all the other shows that come on different Fridays of the month. Like, do you think from a podcasting standpoint? Okay, so the first part of the question is to you. Like, do you think personally, like you do this way because it keeps it fresh for you, so you don't get stagnant, like in your own mind, in your own creative process? Or, and the second part of the question is, as a podcaster, do you think it's beneficial to do it that way, or do you think having mini shows, like having a mini segment, like in the middle of the week, like a 10-minute episode of that, of like, say we'll take the, oh man, I forgot their name again. The band there, A Little Liar. We'll take the Little Liar segment, like something, because it was like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, 10, 15, almost.
Do you think do you think that's too long for the flagship show? Like, I only asked this. I don't know. So,
yeah.
But part of it is I want to know your creative, like what your thoughts are creatively on it, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's interesting, dude. I think personally speaking, it does definitely make it so that there's something different to do each time and make it creative, right? So that it doesn't become stagnant. Like I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just editing this, I'm putting it here, and it's ready to go. Editing this. Because again, for my opening segments, the intro of the show, and you know how this is. You record. I record them after the fact. I don't record them right before the guy the interviewee is there. I don't record it while they're there. It's always after the fact, but I do it. Typically, I record it the week that the episode's going to release because I want the intro to be as up to date as possible in terms of shows that are coming out or new releases, things to check out. That said, it does make it easy to have more than one different thing for an intro for the show because that is the creative part, so it doesn't feel stagnant. In terms of adding this as an extra segment like this is definitely different than me recording an intro that says, check this out or listen to this.
right.
This is giving another voice to it. And you know what it kind of reminds me of, dude? Do you remember like some of the old like MTV shows, like 120 Minutes or something, right, would have a guest that would come on and promote a new album or something, and then they'd have the main interview as well. So it wasn't like just the one person. And so for me, I think doing something where I provide that intro to as part of the episode, I feel like gives it that not like a variety show, but there's a little bit of a variety in who you're listening to as part of the sound of 716 or the Western New York area. So I feel like it's kind of cool hearing them as well as the interviewee, right? Like, so say you're a fan of Little Liars guitarist, or Little Liars a band. and you like listening to my show, and this week's episode is going to be, the singer of, Prairie Pavement. So I have them as the main interviewee, but you're a fan of Little Liar as well. It's like getting that bonus thing now that you get to hear that intro thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think the podcasting benefiting from it, and whether it should be its own thing, I think it depends on what you're trying to do with it. So for me, I think keeping it that kind of variety show and getting some extra stuff with it and more content through the episodes is where I want to drive that. Would it benefit for having its own? Like, I feel like that would push me off more, because that would feel like another show to work on.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I'm just like, why am I? Whereas if this is part of the one I'm already working on to put out, even though it's the same amount of work that needs to be done, you know what I mean? Listening to it, editing it, fixing it up. Mm-hmm. It's the same amount of work, but my mind sees it as it's one task, whereas the other one's two. And do I want to have two tasks or one?
No, I get that.
You know?
I totally get that. Yeah. And like, not for nothing, like you fired out of the gate with having that opening segment, whatever it was. So it's part of the brand or whatever now, right? So
yeah. Because I wanted it to be kind of variety. I wanted people to come and get more than one thing out of it, aside from just the interview and listening to somebody's story. I wanted them to get what was going on right now in our scenes or in the community. What were the shows that people should check out? What are some of the bands or some of the music that they have not been turned on to yet? Right. Kind of like what we do, what I would, that opening segment is my version of like a shortened down non-radio version of the radio show. So I could promote and share some music and tell people to check this out and listen to it.
No doubt. Yeah, that's cool. What about like, so with this show, with 716 The Sound, have you been into, because you're not a Buffalo native, right?
Right.
So like, were you into all the local stuff for a long time? I mean, I know you've been into it as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
Right. And we've known each other. I can't believe we've known each other for as many years as we have already. I don't really know when you moved to Buffalo. But
2010,
okay, in 2010. So were you like, did you get sucked into because I know you used to play music out in Florida when you lived there, right?
Yeah.
So did you get sucked into that right away? Kind of like how you talk to these artists that came from somewhere else as well, and you kind of say, how did you get into the scene? Like, how did you get into the community?
Yeah.
Like, what was it for you? Like, did you just start like seeing? Did you go to live shows a lot, or was it just like band camp stuff?
So yeah, that's a good one, dude, because coming here, that was one of my biggest like intentions, was to get into the scenes, find out what the music was like here, who to play, like who to even jam with, because I wanted to I'm leaving Florida where I had these dudes that I'd play music with all the time. The one, my best friend, he lived like 5 blocks away from me, so I would jam with him all the time. And right before I moved, we probably for a year straight jammed 5 nights a week. And now I was moving away from that. And when I moved here, one of the main focuses for me was like, all right, so who can I find to jam with and play with? Who's going to...
And you found Anthony?
No, dude, no.
Sorry.
When I first moved here, one of the earliest jobs I got when I first moved here was at Geico. And at Geico, there was this dude that played guitar. And he was in a band with this kid who played bass, and he worked at Geico also. And their band's called The Nye, still around, still a cool, dope band. But we would jam. I'd come over to their place and we'd all just kind of mess around and stuff, and they'd mess around at my place. And so I'd go see them live. I saw a couple other shows live. I remember after I left Geico and I went to work for the company I work for now, I was an office manager, and one of my employees, her boyfriend was a guitarist in a band. So that was the first time I'd ever been to Mohawk, was to go see that dude's band. Mm-hmm. But nothing ever clicked. Like, I never found somebody that playing music with them, like, it clicked. And so I never got into it. I didn't really go see many bands live. I didn't go check them out so much. It wasn't until I started doing that one time at band camp that I started finding local bands on that show, and then going, man, this is actually really good. Let me see if they're playing around here. And then I'd try to check, like, that's how I'd go check some of them out. Stress Dolls, I came across when I went to go see Keep Flying. She opened for, Chelsea opened for Keep Flying at Mohawk Place. And then it was like, okay, I like that act. Let me go check them out a couple more times, right? And then I see them play with this other act, Star Juice, and then say, okay, cool, I like that act. Let me go see them play with. And it became this thing where I started to go out more and more because more and more bands I was becoming familiar with, I was going to see and going to check it out. I will say in the last probably 2 years, my music consumption has gone from like, say, mainstream was like 90% of my consumption and local music was at like 30%. Now it's like
It's the opposite.
90% local
90,
and regional
yeah.
and or unsigned, right? And like 30% mainstream. That's my listening, like, trends now.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome,
dude,
man.
because there's so much good, dude. It's so much good. And like, why am I not going to listen to it? Because it's not on the radio? Because it's not like signed to Geffen Records? That's the craziest thing.
You and I are a lot similar in that aspect, right? And that's how we started the roundtable. We would just send each other that stuff, and like, and it's fun. I remember the first time you sent me On the Cinder. I knew about them because Aria had like promoted, I think it was when they had that 10-inch. They have a 10-inch?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was the one you sent me, and I had just seen that on Aria's like social media. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and then that's cool too, because like it's like you've helped the struggling artist a lot, and I thank you in every episode. You know this,
of course, dude.
And but like you're part of this that's out in like a lot of the local people out, because even though I go all over the map, I do a lot here because I'm here, right?
Yeah.
This is just where I am. But a lot of people know you from this, right? But then you have
it is crazy out there how people know me, from that.
Yeah. But then there's this connection with Buffalo bands and the bands out here, and like it's just like this, you know what I mean? Like it's just like the degree of separation. Like
it is bizarre, dude, because I remember last year, maybe early last year, there was a show I went and saw On the Cinder play Mohawk. And they're getting set up, right? And people are milling about, and I was standing kind of like in the middle of the floor because I like to get up close, and I was wearing my KCUF t-shirt. And Ty, the drummer of On the Cinder, was setting up his things, and he's twisting on his cymbals or something. And he looks over at me, and he kind of nods high at first, and then he does this double take and goes, and he points at it, and I see him mouth to Jay, the guitarist, "Is that a KCUF shirt?"
Yeah.
And they turn around. He turns around and looks. He goes, "Yes, it is." And they were just like, "Nice shirt," you know what I mean? And I found out they knew the KCUF guys because they'd played before on the same bill. You know what I mean? It is a cool thing. It definitely is.
I know it's a little more south than you, but like when JBR came out to play the KCUF show, and I was talking to AJ of Shakeout, and I was like, I knew about Shakeout before I knew about JBR, and he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, my buddy Chris, and he's like, Chris Chavez, you know what I mean? And then he was like, and AJ was all excited because you were at the show too, you know what I mean? So
and I knew AJ through the guys that Keep Flying, who Keep Flying, like I knew through Anthony because the guys in Keep Flying, the singer and his brother was in it at the time, went to school with them and like knew them and stuff. So it's crazy how all these connections happen, and then you realize that it becomes kind of like a bigger network, right? Like, so like you have there's the New England area of artists that you're friends with out there. I know a lot of these ones out here, but they all know each other from when they go into each other's cities and come through and play shared bills in a different city. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a cool thing. It starts to show you that these small communities that we see and are part of that are kind of tight knit also have this network of again, like I like to say in my segment of the 716 radio show, the homies, right? Like they're all homies.
Yeah. And you know what? And like it goes further. It just goes deeper. Like, like you've already found a Trev replacement out there, for Christ's sake. We got the same goddamn name,
No, dude. Listen, I gotta say, I've become more of kind of interacting more with the community out here, but that doesn't take away from, you know, my love for
No, I
a lot
know.
of the bands and the ones out in New England as
I
well.
know. I just
too.
thought it was crazy that like someone liked this thing. I'm like, who's this? And I'm like, Trevor Allen. And then,
Travis.
Yeah, Travis,
Yeah.
Travis Allen. And then we, you know, and then I was like, who's this guy? You're like, I'm interviewing him today.
Which
And I was
is
like,
funny,
son
dude.
of a
How
bitch.
bizarre is it that you?
Yeah.
It was the same day, dude. I was like,
know.
wait, I'm talking to him today.
I know, that's awesome. Yeah, that's funny. It's just a weird degree of separation. Like it's just, you know, it's pretty cool. It's in. I think that's why, like, I hear you say it too, right? I don't know if it's for me beating it into your head because I'm always saying it, but it might not be. But like, I'm always talking about the difference between community and scenes and blah blah blah, and like, you know what I mean. So like to hear you say like, you know, you're talking about like that community as well, and like it's cool because a lot of people that you talk to aren't really from there originally, and that's cool because that's what brings
Just a
everything
few.
together.
Just a few. I've had only a few that aren't from here. A lot of them are from here. But yeah.
okay, yeah. So like it was like because like the singer from Faith to Fear, they're from Long
Yeah.
Island, and Travis is from where in Pennsylvania?
Erie, around the Erie
He's from
area.
Erie, yeah,
just outside
He's
of
from
Pittsburgh
Erie.
or
Yep.
something.
So and then one of the
Yeah, I've had a few for sure.
State University guys, like they weren't from like was one of them not from the area?
No, they were, but then I think you're thinking about how they went to live in Europe for a minute.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
See,
dude, it is.
I
And
listened
that
to your
shows
show.
you.
I listened to your show.
But yeah, you're right. It is a community, right? My thing is for me, I always looked at it as community is by definition made up of individuals, right? A whole bunch of individuals that come together. It is a community. And so I see it as the music community. And then within there is where you typically have your groupings. If you're in high school, you would call them cliques. In the music world, you call them the scenes, right? And these scenes all have their own kind of infrastructure as well in terms of who knows who and who's on what level. So you have your hardcore. And so Buffalo big time has their hardcore community. Like that's a very, it's a thriving scene here in Buffalo. There's an up and coming and very thriving indie / alternative scene. The punk scene has its thing going here. You know what I mean? There's the pop scene as well and then there's this scene that's just kind of like everybody else, where it's like all kinds of stuff, maybe a little bit of a hip hop, maybe a little bit of an electronic, you know what I mean? But I don't think we have anything that's too, I don't know, unless it's just that I haven't been exposed to it yet, right?
Right. Well, so you know what, dude? You've sent me a lot of good hip hop from Buffalo. Like, what is that like? Have you infiltrated? I guess.
So yeah,
have you infiltrated that part of the community and to try to get people on, or?
Yeah, no, I haven't reached out to, and that's the thing. So with this starting the way it's going was initially, I was into a band or a group, and then it went from knowing this person to getting hooked up with that person. So most of the music that I do, or most of the like scenes, if you will, that I'm doing is alternative punk rock so far. It hasn't been any hip hop or rap yet.
Yeah. So is there a plan for that, or is it just?
Oh yeah,
you just,
yeah. I don't want it to just be one specific. I want it to be everything. You know what I mean? But no, there's definitely a goal to get more diverse styles of music on as well. I want to get some electronic music artists out here. I want to get some country, some folk, some bluegrass. You know, anything, anybody that has any kind of input into the musical community.
So I just recently came up with I was trying to describe how the show works. So I have a write-up that I send. I don't think you've seen it since I've updated it, but it's very I break it down into how the show works and what we need and what it will do and what we talk about. But so I was talking with someone who has an episode coming out in the next couple of weeks, and I said, yeah, it's a lot like, I said, this show, The Struggling Artist, is a lot like riding the T. You have a destination where you're going to, but we make these stops along the way. So the ultimate goal is to obviously promote whatever they have going on or talk about the subject they want to bring to the table, that kind of thing. But we make these stops along the way where we talk about mental health. We talk about this, we talk about that. We talk about growing up. We talk about, beginning bands and starting the band they're
Favorite
in.
Nintendo game. It just depends on where it goes. Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, do you like what is your? And I guess that would be my structure because I do have that goal at the end. Like, I always make sure we talk about the thing, right? So, what is yours for 716 The Sound? Is it talking about how the person fits in the community, or you know what I mean?
Everything. So what I usually tell them is that it's a one-on-one show where the whole focus is on the individual and what they bring to the music community. And we get there by discussing where they're from, their experiences growing up, influences, anything that they're working on, bands that they've been in, all that kind of stuff. So the whole idea is the focus on that person, the history of that person, right? And then how it fits into what they're doing to put out what they're putting out in the community, whether they're the guitarist in this band, or they're the singer, songwriter of this band. The whole point again is to showcase that. Don't get me wrong, I love it. We have all these bands, we have all these artists. They're bands, they're great, they're putting on music live, but each one of those people in that band is a part of making the magic of what they do. And I want to know who it is. Who are you? Where'd you come from?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I think every single person deserves the attention, right?
Yeah,
So
100%.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good thing, man.
Not just musicians. So with my show, I want to, when I say community, it's not just musicians and that kind of artists.
Right.
Like I want to talk to the artist that does, flyers, show flyers.
Yeah.
Because without them, we don't have some iconic show flyers that are being posted around these clubs. I want to talk to the photographers, the videographers. Without them documenting it, we're never going to remember that these bands existed aside from memory. There's been so many artists I've talked to who talked about the scene back in the 90s and how they wish they had digital to be able to say it's all still there. They wish they had the photographers and the videographers that said, look, these were important performances. These were local, but they're still important. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So all these people, the podcasters, the videographers, whoever it is that contributes to documenting or being a part of this music scene, I want to talk to.
Now, does it have to be exclusive to that scene? Like, could you talk to somebody who, or would you like, or yeah, is it in your structure, right, for what your show is? Like, if you talk to somebody that say they do like a lot of recordings, like live recordings in Buffalo, but they're not from there. That just happens to be like they go there because they know bands there and they were, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
like, is there an adjacent thing to this, or no? You have to be here.
Yeah, not right now. So everybody that is being highlighted, it either lives in or definitely takes place. Everything takes place within Buffalo or Western New York. So again, whatever the boundaries of Western New York are, which is far out as Rochester, south of Jamestown.
Hey, I mean, it's a big place. I didn't realize how big it was.
Yeah,
and I'm always hitting you up because I'm like, you're, like you live in Buffalo, but like whatever part of Buffalo you live in isn't called that. And
so it's a suburb of Buffalo.
Yeah, and then I'm like, wait, Rochester isn't right next door? You're like, no.
No, it's about an hour and a half away, depending on what side of the city you're going to.
Exactly. So, like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's cool, man. And it's fun because, like, I'm not from there, right? But I enjoy the show. I enjoy listening to these artists talk about their stuff. I enjoy you curating this and like driving it and all that stuff. Like, it's fun. Even like in the like shows coming up, I don't care that I'm not going to be able to go. I still like to hear that they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, it's sometimes like putting your, like, cause like you can put yourself in the box, right? And like you like people will put themselves, like they have one thing, the niche thing, and like they put themselves in this box and it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
But you built the box, right? You're like you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not trying to be silly, but like you built this like, all right, this is what we're doing.
Is this where I'm playing? Right. This is what I want to play inside.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think there's a different aspect when you do that, right?
Yeah.
You're not pigeonholing yourself because because you can build those parameters further out the more you want, and you know what I mean. So, and again, like the content, like what you're not asking just Buffalo questions, and that's what I like. Like I'm learning about a person, not like just what's going on in Buffalo, you know?
Right.
And but you do that as well, right? So the local people are loving it because now there's a center focal, like a center voice for everything that's going on.
Yeah, they're hearing the references they know.
Yeah.
They're hearing about places they've been. Yeah.
Right. So it's cool how you blended those together. And like, you know, I knew when you told me about this show, like, all right, we've known each other, what, 4 years now?
Yeah.
Like, it was 2020. It was early 2021 when we first met, I think. Because we had the show at the end of 2021 at the house, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, and like I've known you for 4 years, and like you worked with me with my podcast, and you helped me do things that, like, at the time I couldn't even do. Like, I couldn't do social media. I couldn't make graphics. Like, you know, I'm at a point where I can do that stuff now. And at the same time, like, I'm happy that I'm doing that because it's allowing you to take this project even further.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, I'm always bugging you, like, am I giving you too much? Like, you know what I'm saying? You know how I am. And, you know, and so, like, I like that because, like, I've seen, you know, you have these other podcasts that, like, they're fun. They're a lot of fun, right? But, like, I feel like there's a different drive to this one. I see in you.
Oh yeah.
And I like that. And I you know, because, like, I'm seeing you now, like where how, like, it's not as casual as, like, some of the other ones, right? Like I feel like your deadlines, you're making, like, a structure for yourself here with your deadlines and what you want. Obviously, like, when you weren't feeling well and you were in the hospital, you can't do nothing about it. And even that, like, I'm, like, telling you to rest, and you're like, oh yeah, Aaron's bringing me my laptop so I can edit it. I'm like, stop it, you know? Yeah. I'm like, why don't you just send it to me? I'll fucking do it. You know, I'll edit your shit for you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause, like, you know, that I wanted you to focus on your health right there, you know? So, but like, there's something, this podcast and it's doing something. It's a different focus for you, and I can see that, and I love that, man.
Yeah, this one I want to take more seriously. This one I want to actually do something with, because I feel like this one has. I'm not trying to make myself into something that I think I'm better than, or I think I'm something at all. But I feel like this is a show that can be some beneficial to the community itself.
Yeah.
Right. And there's been so many times now that I've spoken with people, and when we're done talking and they're getting ready to leave, one of the things they say to me is, thanks for doing what you're doing with this, because this is needed. Like, we appreciate this. This is awesome.
Not to toot our own horns, but when I hear that, it feels so good.
It does, dude. It totally does.
And maybe this for you too. One, because, like, I wasn't here. I'm not from Boston. I'm not from Massachusetts. Like, I'm from New England, but, like, it's a completely different world as far as this community goes. You know, there's bands in Rhode Island that I consider, like, they're obviously part of the New England community, but, like, being here and, like, dealing, and I'm not a musician. That's the other thing for me. Like, so when people tell me what I'm doing is important and it means a lot, that's cool. So I'm assuming, like, I mean, you are a musician, and everything. So, like, but, like, not, I know, I'm sure at one point you're like, should I be doing this? Like, am I, like, not the guy to do this because I'm not originally from here?
I'm not native, right? But that's the thing about Buffalo, dude, and that's the thing about here is that, like, even if you're not from here, if you move here, it's called a city of good neighbors for a reason, because now you're neighbor. Now you are your family. You're from here. Like, that's what it is. And if you decide to adopt it, you decide to say, you know, I love this place. This place is my home now. That's it. You're in. You're in. It's like cool. It's like being sworn into the mafia. You're in now. That's it. You're from Buffalo now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, don't you have your own Buffalo Mafia, right? For the Bills?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a thing too, man. That's a whole other culture out here, is that Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo is known for what? What is
They're called
slogan?
the city of good neighbors.
Oh, I thought it was the city of bad football. I love being
We'll
on the
see.
driver's
You know
end
what?
of
We'll
this,
see.
man.
We'll see in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
We'll just
we will.
see. We'll see how if it's still bad football.
I
or
know,
not.
I know. No, because even if you make it all the way, like you're still a good team. You had to get there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You just might have choked. Who knows? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't followed any football in the last couple of years. I don't know. I'm just saying. I just like to give you a little shit about.
Oh,
the
of
Bills.
course, dude. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I expect it.
All right. So where does it go from here? What's like? Do you? And you don't have to like. I know sometimes when you say something, you put it out into the world. Like now it has to be something, but
otherwise,
like, do you have goals? Like, is there going to be like a 716 The Sound like show or an event? Like, like we did the evening with stuff like that. Like,
yeah, dude, with this show, my goal is to make it one of these more kind of like I want it to be a thing where within the community, people look to it or go to it for that kind of thing. Like, let's see what's going on here. I toyed with having a website for it, but you and I both know that I don't need another thing added to my plate to stay on top of and update and fiddle around. I just don't need that.
I know.
I'm definitely going to be working with a lot of folks that I'm interacting with and making contacts with in terms of putting on shows and what that looks like in terms of having the 716 brand on it or the Hardly Awesome brand on it. I'm not sure yet, but that's definitely a goal to be able to do things like that, help put on shows and stuff.
Be a lot of fun too. Like it's like,
I mean, you and I have talked about this before, and it's kind of something I'm still messing around with and playing with, but I would love to have an online radio show, that's literally focused on the music where I can play it so anyone can listen to it at any time. So that's a goal for sure. But yeah, just to keep doing the show and talking to more people. I have a whole list of artists that are on my quote unquote wish list for 2025. So goals are to try to get all of them on.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah.
And it's a weekly show.
Semi-weekly. Sometimes it's every 2 weeks, depending on what's going on in the week.
I always tell people that want to start a podcast, do something like bi-weekly, and if you have something on an off week, that's a bonus.
Yeah,
it's better than saying we're here every week and then not showing. I mean, like something happening and you can't. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
I want to ask you this. We're gonna wrap up soon here because I know I've had you for the last like 2 hours.
Yeah,
because
I have another interview a 716 interview that's waiting on. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh man, I was like, oh shit. So do you do all these in house?
Yeah, everybody's come to studio. Nobody has done it. Everybody I offer to, I say we could do one or two. You can come into studio if you want, or we could do it over video, whatever's easy.
Yeah.
And so far, every single person has said, no, we'll come into studio.
That's awesome.
2 of them came out from Rochester. So, I had a couple of guests from Faith to Fear, the singer and the drummer. The singer, that episode's already been out. And as of this recording, I'm not sure when this goes up, but I believe the drummer will have already been out on the show too.
Yeah, I'm not sure when this is going up either.
Both came out from Rochester, which was awesome, dude.
That's awesome.
Rochester's like I said, hour away drive. So they drove out an hour to be on the show, which was awesome.
That's awesome.
It's much appreciated too. There's definitely something different in interacting with somebody in person,
especially with an interview.
Yeah.
Right. You and it's weird, right? Sometimes people this will be easier for them, and then when you get them in the room, it's tough for them, or sometimes it's the opposite, right?
Yeah,
It's just I want to go back. I mean, I have been going back to doing some in-person interviews and stuff like that. I just need, because we're doing video content, right? So I'm gonna have to start figuring that part out. How are we going to do it like that?
Yeah.
What's your plans? Do you plan on doing video or anything like that? Or I know you're a terrestrial radio head like me, as far as not the glory of it, but the fascination of it, right? And we're of a certain age. Not saying we're old enough that we don't remember when there was. I'm not saying we're old enough to remember when there wasn't television, but
yeah.
But Is there any kind of like thing in the future for video interviews or anything like that? I know you, because look, you're a really good videographer too, and I know you know how to set things up. But it's about how much work you are allowed to put, like you can put into this at the moment, right?
Right. Yeah, maybe in a couple of years or something. Right now, I'm looking at this being, strictly an audio show. I am thinking about making sure it's available on YouTube because I know that a lot of people listen to podcasts on YouTube.
Yep.
But it's going to be kind of like a different version of the audio version. So the audio version has my intros, you know what I mean, where you'll listen to music and stuff like that. Whereas for the video show, if I put it on YouTube, I'm probably going to remove that. I'll probably just have like the intro music with the artwork or something as the intro of the video, and then just show the artwork of the person on the show with the audio of the episode where it's there.
Well, you can just you can add your RSS feed now.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I want to remove the intro because I don't want to have to worry about the music that I play and anything getting flagged. You know what I mean? So I just want it to be just strictly the interviews, right? And maybe that's what I'll call it. It'll be called the YouTube, just strictly the interviews.
Yeah. So I have a love-hate relationship with YouTube over that. I don't like it because I do get permission. Mm-hmm. But without having a licensing agreement, a lot of the times they still flag you and they'll pull it anyway. With that said, they really take care of the artists that way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, 100% for sure, right?
Yeah. So but like I'm not mad at YouTube for doing that. I just like and it just involves needing a license agreement now, right? So, but now that we're on there, So sometime maybe in the future, like you said, you might
possibly
have some video.
Right now, it's going to stay audio.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, we're of an age where that's a thing. Yeah. So,
and I think as soon as I get a few more episodes under the belt, I'm going to launch that radio show, the radio station. And right now, it's just going to be just on a loop, episode after episode of the podcast. You know what I mean? Until I'm able to do a radio show.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. So, all right, where do people find you in the world since you don't have a website?
Well, if they want to email me, they can send it to hardlyawesomestudios@gmail.com. Okay. If they want to check out the podcast Instagram, it's 716 The Sound on the Grahamtown. I don't have any other social for it. It doesn't have a Facebook. It doesn't have a Blue
Sky. I thought you put a Blue Sky. Oh, no,
I'm personally on Blue Sky.
Yeah,
I am.
Yeah.
I mean, if people want to follow me there, they can too. C Chavez 13. But yeah, that's about it, man. That's all. Right now, I'm only doing the Instagram for the podcast, and I'm not trying to add anything else to try to keep up episode info and all that stuff.
It sucks, dude.
Yeah, it's just Instagram, dude. That's all I'm doing.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Well, Chris, man, I'm pumped for you. I love the show.
Thanks, dude.
I told you that. I heard the first episode and I'm like, you suck. I'm like, you nailed it in the first one. Like, fuck you.
I feel like I've been getting better and better at it. And I think you know that feeling. It's like the more you do it, the more you start feeling comfortable at what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're interacting. Right. I'm not going to pretend that I'm like the next, Howard Stern or Oprah or Joe Rogan, but I'm getting to a point where I feel comfortable talking and interacting and getting what I need out of it, Yeah,
it's awesome, man. Like I said, it's from someone who's not there, like it's still awesome. And I don't I don't think you've had anybody on that I know yet.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Like you haven't dropped it on the Cinder episode with any of those guys, right?
Nope, haven't had. I'm going to be getting on here in February after their set of shows. But
I knew I saw something that was revolving around that. I just didn't know, Yeah, so I mean, these are all artists that I like. And there's only been a couple that I heard of because of you, right? So some of the other ones I hadn't heard yet. Like I don't even know who they were, and like the conversations are awesome. Like
awesome. Thanks. Dude.
It's good from a local standpoint. It is good from an outsider looking in.
Awesome. Thank you.
So yeah, man. Maybe one day we'll collab something as the kids say.
Yeah, right. That'll be awesome.
Oh wait, do a collab? Yeah. All right, man. Thank you.
All right, brother. See you.
All right, and that's the show. I want to thank Chris again for being on today's episode of the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you will find links to social media, to Instagram, to the podcast. Check out 716 The Sound. I want to thank Chris for being a producer on the podcast as well, but not just him, but also Jeff Bousquet for being a producer as well. Check them out on Instagram. As I just said, Chris is at 716 The Sound, and Jeff is JRB Image. Thank you to State Line Records for being sponsors of the podcast. Thank you to everybody at Patreon. At Patreon? No, not the people. Well, I guess I thank people who work at Patreon, but the people over that's subscribing to us on Patreon, the patrons, the struggling artist patrons. Thank you so much for supporting us over there. Go check out, see what's going on. Patreon.com/podcast TSA. Thank you to everybody who listens to the show, who emails, texts, or leaves us a voicemail. It is much appreciated. Telling your friends about the podcast and having them reach out to come on. It's awesome. Really good. Just make sure you tell them the email, trev@thestrugglingartistpodcast.com if they want to book something, because that's the easiest way for me to see it. I don't always see Instagram messages, barely see Facebook messages. So, just make sure you do that over there. We're on Blue Sky now. I don't know what's going on with that, but we're over there. Look for, I think it's just Podcast TSA like everything else. Yeah. And our YouTube, I keep forgetting to mention our YouTube. We are we are doing videos at the time of this. We already have our full videos over there at YouTube. Go check them out. We're at the Struggling Artist Podcast over there. Yeah, for sure. YouTube. Tube it. All right, we're going to get out of here. No song to play from Chris, so we're going to do what we always do when we don't have a song. We're going to play Loser Circle, who was kind enough to allow us to use their song, The Great Illusion of Time, off of their album Took Long Enough, as the theme song to the podcast. Thank you, fellas. You don't have no idea how happy and how grateful I feel that you guys let us use that tune each and every week for the intro. And I like to use it for the outro when we don't have a song. So here it is, The Great Illusion of Time, off of the album Took Long Enough by Loser Circle. Until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.